One eternity later.
Come on. Fire is one of humanity's oldest and most important discoveries. Our ancient ancestors, of course, got their first glimpse of flame from volcanic eruptions and lightning strikes, but it wasn't until 1 to 1.5 million years ago that they learned how to harness the power of fire. Over time, fire became an incredible tool for human survival. It allowed us to cook food, it allowed us to use it for heat, it was a deterrent to predators at the time, and it even allowed us to forge certain tools. Fire quite literally lit the way to human civilization as we know it today. Now, there are a million ways to do this, of course. There are ancient ways of building tools from scratch, using friction and wood and different heat sources to get things going. And a lot of that can be told here in this book, Fire Making by Daniel Hume. It's a really cool book. I can't recommend it enough. Now, we're not going to cover all of the ancient ways to create and harness the energy. We're going to talk about some more modernized techniques, from lighters and matches to some DIY approaches to how you can be more prepared to create fire if you need it. Now, in this day and age, we're a little bit more complacent. We've kind of lost that connection with nature in a lot of ways, and making fire and harnessing that energy is one of those aspects. So we just turn on our stove, or we use our microwave to cook food. Maybe we just crank the thermostat when we get cold. And I think that fire is still such an important thing to remember where it came from and how to make it properly, especially from a preparedness standpoint. Having more tools in the toolbox to be able to utilize and harness an energy as powerful as fire is super important. So how do we create fire? What is fire, you might ask? And that may seem like kind of a silly question to some, but the reality is it's a very simple answer. Fire is made up of 3 main components. You have your heat source, you have your fuel source, and you have oxygen. If you combine all 3 of those together, you will ultimately get combustion and you'll be able to start a fire. Now, starting the fire is half the battle, maintaining it is the rest, and that takes a little bit more work depending on the source that you're using. So when it comes to preparedness, I like to kind of say that old saying of 1 is none and 2 is 1. And that kind of is the way that I think about a lot of this stuff that we set up in our various kits, whether it's our get home bags, go bags, stuff that's in the vehicles, or just kind of everyday stuff that we like to carry. For instance, when we were talking about making fire, we did a video a couple of weeks ago about communications and specifically the Starlink Mini and how we utilized it. We talked about PACE plans. Now, PACE plans is an acronym of preparedness for communications typically, but you can sort of apply it to other areas of preparedness as well. So today I'm going to talk a little bit about how my first line of fire starting, and I have a little kit here that we're going to go through, is a good quality lighter. So a butane lighter like this, it's refillable, serviceable, it's from Cana Provisions. It is a great all-around lighter that we've used in a lot of different weather conditions, and as you know, when you're talking about fire, poor weather conditions, specifically wet weather conditions, makes everything a lot harder to handle. So we've had good luck with the Cana Provisions lighter that they put out. Just a really good hot little butane torch. That's my first line of defense, you could say, when it comes to starting a fire. Now, of course, we have your typical waterproof strike anywhere matches in there. That's kind of my second line of defense. We have that in the kit, just a good thing to have with you at all times. Then I'm going to have a few different forms of fire starters or helpers, you could say. There's a lot of good stuff out there on the market, and here's just a few that we've had good luck with and I like. So this is going to be a tinder rope or a little fire rope. This is something that's going to light fast and burn for a long time, and that's going to allow you to build up your fire components around this, and that's going to give you a quick and easy combustible heat source that's going to allow you to catch on the rest of the stuff. Now, in a similar vein, there's a few other things that I have here in my little tin fire kit, and these are very similar to that rope, just a little bit of a smaller package. This is going to be a fire starting brick. Now, you can buy these in bulk online for like 20 bucks. It's going to come in a big brick like this. They're great to throw in the truck. They're great to throw a couple of these little pieces in your, little fire kit that you take backpacking or whatever. And they don't take up a lot of space. They light very easily and they stay lit for a long time. So it can really help you get a nice raging fire going for whatever your needs might be. Another thing that I really do like too is these little fire plugs. All of these things do a very similar job and play a similar role. It's just redundancy that I like to have. And I do like lightweight and small compact packages. So, you know, you could bypass having something like this fire rope and go right on to having a little pack of these fire plugs, as they work in very similar ways. Now, we've found that obviously this may burn a lot longer, it's a lot larger, and these little fire plugs, although they do a great job, they're gonna burn up a little bit quicker, so you may have to use a few more. That's why you see in this pack, there's, you know, a good collection of these. Another thing that I have and like is this fire wax tinder. It just comes like this. It's essentially petroleum jelly with cotton, and that is a very good way to build and start a very fast fire. And what we're gonna do too is talk a little bit about how to make that DIY with some cotton balls here in a minute, and that's a pretty cool way to go about it. But if you're not into doing it yourself and you wanna just have something ready to go, something like this fire wax tinder is a great starter. Now, the last thing I have in here for redundancy is a striker and a ferro rod. Now, what that allows me to do is strike a spark anywhere that I need. It doesn't matter what the weather conditions are like. If I don't have my matches and I don't have my lighter, then I'm gonna go on to this. It's a little bit harder to start with sparks. Obviously, you don't have a constant heat source, but when you're utilizing things like the fire wax, this little guy right here is actually very easy to get that spark to start into something much, much more that's actually gonna be a usable base for your fire. So one of my favorite little DIY hacks is making your own fire starter out of basic petroleum jelly and 100% cotton balls. You can buy pre-made stuff like we just showed you before, but this is a really inexpensive way to make this in bulk quantities. You can get one bag for a few bucks and share it and build little kits out for all of your friends, all your buddies. And let me just jump right in and show you how it works. You can use various size baggies like this, these little Ziplocs. You can use, I just have little small ones here for the demonstration. But what you want to do is you want to take this and turn it inside out. And then I'm going to take my petroleum jelly. I'm just going to scoop out, I don't know, for this size, maybe like a tablespoon or a tablespoon and a half's worth, something like that. And then I'm going to leave that turned inside out, and I'm going to add in a handful of these cotton balls here. So what I want to do at this point is flip that right side out, close up about 3/4 of the way to leave a little air gap, and then I'm going to be able to just smush these around and let that cotton fully saturate all that petroleum jelly in there. This process just takes a second, get it all saturated, used up. Now at this point, that package is ready to be thrown in your kit. And you can just take it just like that. I'm gonna show you how it works to light one up. We're gonna pull one of these out. See, it's fully saturated with petroleum jelly. Then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna pull it apart, and I'm gonna create some air gaps in there. I'm just gonna lay this down here. This is just on some tin foil here for safety. We are out here in the woods, and it's pretty dry already this year. Then I'm gonna take my ferro rod, I'm gonna stick it close to the base. And just like that, you have something that's gonna burn for a long period of time. I can start to add in my other tinder and other small kindling to get the fire going. And just like that, you have it going. Keep in mind that that petroleum jelly is obviously what's burning off, and the cotton ball is just the catalyst. And if it's not on something like a piece of bark like this or a piece of foil like this, you may find that the petroleum jelly really just drips and heats up and runs off, and which can cause your fire starter to last a lot less time. So just keep that in mind as you're going. But as you can see, very simple to do, tried and true. Love this little guy. So one of the other DIY methods that I think is pretty cool and I wanted to show to you all is a very simple trick with ultra-fine steel wool and just a 9-volt battery. You may say, well, I don't always have this kind of stuff with me. That's probably true. Redundancy is key, like I've said before. Having a lot of different ways to get a fire started is important. But this is just a neat little trick, and if you're camping or whatever, you might have steel wool with you to wash pans. And a 9-volt battery, well, everyone has batteries with them. So I just want to demonstrate that. It doesn't really matter what kind of battery you have, as long as it's a 9-volt. I like to make sure that it's a fully charged battery. This is a Duracell, just happens to be. And then, like I said before, this is ultra-fine steel wool. It comes in different grits for different things. The ones that are not fine like this will not work as well, that's all. So we'll just do this. And you can see immediately it's starting. And that's it. It's literally that easy. You just take that 9-volt battery, touch it to the steel wool starts to burn. It does burn pretty quickly in comparison to like the cotton ball trick that we just showed, but this is enough to create some heat to start off your type A combustibles. So your type A combustibles, or in this case, are gonna be anything around you that's in the natural world, like wood, bark, pine needles, grasses, all that kind of stuff. So that's it. You just have a pile of steel wool like that, touch the battery to it, it's going to start like that, create some heat, and you're on your way. Obviously, when it comes to preparedness and harnessing the energy of fire and creating fire and maintaining that fire, this was just the tip of the iceberg on all of the different possibilities and the ways that you can achieve what we just showed you today. These are just some of the ways that I like and some of the unique DIY ways that you can do it, as well as some of the stuff that I like to carry on my person and my various kits. So remember, fire is one of the most, if not the most monumental discovery that humans have ever had, and is just an insane energy force. And for us to be able to harness that and use it to our advantage for all of these different reasons is just an incredible thing. So get outside, touch some grass, train, and we will see you next time.